I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Hi, Dan. So we'll start with the approval of the minutes from the July 17th meeting. Also let the minutes reflect Board Member Gross is absent today.
All right, got it.
Excuse me. So I was absent at the last meeting, so George, you're going to have to take the lead on approval of the minutes.
Well, I looked them over and I thought Lynn did an excellent job, and I will approve. I'll move for their approval.
All right. I will second that. All in favor say aye.
All right.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Welcome to all our visitors this morning. Good to see you. Special welcome to Nick Duranick, new news director for 1480, and of course, David and our ink-free representatives here. I appreciate your coverage of the meetings, so thank you. Dan?
Plethora of media attention.
There's always more reading.
A plethora of media attention. All right, well, we won't disappoint, I hope, or maybe I hope we do disappoint. All right, good enough. Well, now that that's out of the way. No reports, no unfinished business. Let's just dive into new business. We'll start with a street closure request from the Timber Ridge neighborhood. Is there a representative here from, yeah, come forward and state your name, please.
I'm Emily LaRue.
Hi, Emily, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You have an assistant with you
I
today?
do. My son Isaac is here with me.
All right, very
I
good.
had to bribe him with a donut, but he's here.
Hi, Isaac, how are you? Good, thanks for coming. All right,
I want to close off just a small section of my street, Heritage Lane. It's off of Patterson Road, kind of by the Menards. We want to have a neighborhood block party September 14th, and we may not even need that section of the road because the person whose house it's going to be in front of will probably mostly be in his driveway, but in case we need to spill out, in case we have a huge turnout, we've never had one of these before, but
sure.
that I have a section where kids can go, or we could play cornhole, or people can sit or whatever. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to block off a small section of my street.
All right. And that's between Colonial and Heritage, and the times of that are, here, it's all on
From
here. I
5
just
to
need to
9.
look at it.
4:30 to 9.
Oh,
4:30 to
4:30 to
9.
9,
5
yeah.
to 9.
Okay. All right. And you've taken care of all the information as far as checking with the police and fire emergency services. They're all good.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I thought this was my first
Um,
step.
I don't see that as an issue. Okay.
I think that because it's just two driveways that wouldn't have access,
Sure.
that the way the addition is designed, that emergency vehicles could get into every
Right.
part of the neighborhood, they must just have to go around.
Gotcha. Well, there is a requirement that you do contact dispatch, and that's clearly stated on the road closure request form. And notify them exactly when you close it, and then when you reopen it. There's a phone number down there. Just make sure you
Oh, I
get that
see.
done
Yeah.
on the
okay.
day of.
Mhm.
That will be helpful. That way they know, obviously, if they would have to come around the other way.
Okay, so on that day, I called this number and
Yes.
said, by the way, I've got a city approval to block off my street from these
Right,
two
and
driveways.
tell them exactly what time that day, and then when you reopen it, then you call them and let them know that it is now reopened.
Okay,
So you're just verifying
okay,
that, so that if they get a call, those folks on duty know that that's closed, and they can reroute them as you suggest.
okay,
All right?
all right.
Questions?
No, I'll move to approve.
Okay, I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, hope you have a good time.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Okay. Housing Authority has a mortgage release. Morning, how are you?
I'm good.
We have a new face for Pam.
Oh, okay,
My name's Alistair McFerrin.
nice to meet you. All right,
The lien on this owner occupied has been satisfied, and it's past the affordability period, and it just has to be released.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Now I'll move, we approve the release of the mortgage.
Okay. I will second that. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So essentially, this is just a home of your own repair that the owner pays a percentage of on their mortgage till it's satisfied. They have met the obligation that they signed up, and the improvement's done, it's been paid for, and that's why that lien's being taken off. All right? All right.
That's
Let's
just
come up
for
here next.
us, just for you to sign.
Oh, that's fine. We know Pam always wants us to sign the day of, so we're happy to do that. Okay,
Here's Pat.
thank you. Do we need one of these?
Yep, we keep one and we'll give one back.
All right,
There you go.
there you go. Thank you.
And,
Oh, that goes into the,
yeah, because you have recorded or something.
okay.
All right. Jeremy, or Justin, excuse me, Lincoln Elementary Sidewalk Project, pay application.
Yeah, I submitted pay application number 3 for the Lincoln Elementary Sidewalk Project. This pay application is in the amount of $10,317. With that pay app is the LPA voucher that we'll submit to NDOT. That will cover $8,254 of that, so 80% of that will be reimbursed.
Okay. Again, this is a federal road project. Actually, it's not a road, it's a sidewalk and alternate transportation project, similar to the Safe Routes to School project that the city was awarded funding for, and now we're executing the engineering portion of it. And that is, like you said, it's an 80-20 project, so it's reimbursable. We have to pay the full amount, and then we're reimbursed 80%. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And that project is still running on schedule, so the actual construction of it will be closer to 2021, 2022. But we have to do all the processes through NDOT, so it's part of that.
All right. Questions?
No, I'll move to approve the pay application.
All right, I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thanks, Justin. Jeremy, I think you want to talk about change order on the 300 North project. This is a local project.
Yes. The first change order isn't monetary in that the change order is not reflective of any additional cost, but it is a modification to a number of manholes and some quantity corrections.
Okay,
Unless you have any questions, I'll move to approve since it's no.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. So the next one is the Airport Industrial Park sewer change order.
Yes, this change order does reflect dollar amount. There were a couple of unforeseen costs associated with the Hickman Ditch sewer crossing, and then there was some unforeseen pipe removal and replacement, about 80 feet of failing pipe that we did not know at the time when it was engineered. Both of them resulted in roughly $56,650 increase to the project. This is the first change order we've had, but both of them were necessary to address issues.
So essentially, that being recently annexed property and city not really having any idea of what's involved with existing infrastructure and maintenance, scheduling, just kind of, you
Yeah,
have to unfortunately find these things out when you tear the road up.
Yeah, there was 80 feet of pipe that was improperly installed. It was flowing backwards, so we had to correct that. And then the Hickman Ditch issue was the culvert that we were going under was assumed based on the outlet level, but the center of the pipe had actually collapsed. So when we went to put our pipe in, it was no longer at that elevation, it was collapsed, so we basically had to replace that culvert with 2 new culverts.
Right. So again, this is a local project, trying to improve infrastructure out in that industrial park. We certainly are anticipating growth and development in that park once the sewer's in and these types of improvements are made, but we're in the process of taking care of it and uncovered a situation that's going to require a little extra money, so.
We have roughly, when we were doing this budgeting and putting that, we had roughly about $600,000 to $800,000 we had set aside for unknown costs, so far, knock on wood, we're doing pretty good.
Good. Questions?
No, I'll move to approve the pay application.
All right, I will second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, item number 6 is Market Street, which is a federal road project, pay application.
This is a pay application for VS Engineering. It is for the construction engineering portion of the project. So as an NDOT project goes through its process at the end, NDOT bids out the project, and we have to have a construction engineer that oversees the construction of the project. This contract was signed late last year for that work to be done. And this is pay application number 5 in the amount of $77,923.73.
All right. Any questions?
No, I hear a lot of nice things about the Market Street project. A lot of compliments from people. I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Jeremy, any updates on the Market Street project as far as timing and so forth?
I think for the most part, we're staying on time. We've had some stormwater issues we had to deal with, but rather than delaying that project, we kept moving forward. So we just expanded the phases. Initially, we were looking to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so forth. Because of the stormwater issues that we had to address, rather than waiting and trying to get that done, we went ahead and went into phase 2 and 3 and so forth, so it allowed them to keep moving. So at this point in time, we're still on schedule to be done probably late October, early November, which is a good thing.
Good.
So we haven't delayed the project any. It just means that there's a bigger area that's going to be under construction than what we had originally anticipated.
Right. Just curious about the Young Tiger football. Are they going to be able to get in there this fall, or have they made other arrangements?
The contractor is working with them to get that portion done so that they can get in there. This top coat will have to come back at a later time, but the top coat itself and the striping, they're only a day here, a day there.
Sure.
It's not extended weeks. They've had the sidewalk is poured out in front of there now, the curb's in place. So a lot of the work they're trying to do is trying to get that to a point where they can use that facility, and then at the end of the project, depending on when they have to come back in there, it'll be short-term delays, it won't be weeks, it'll be a day here, a day there.
Good. All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Brian, you've got a stormwater agreement with the Department of Interior?
Yeah, this is an ongoing agreement we have. I don't remember how many years we've done this now, but it's to fund the lake gauge, stream gauge. It's at Pike Lake right there by the dam where it comes out of the lake. It's just useful information as we do some of our drainage studies, and so we'd like to continue that agreement.
I don't have any questions.
No, I'll move to approve the agreement.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Brian, can you update me a little bit on that gauge? I know when we're watching the river for potential flooding, I don't think it shows that level there. It shows, I think, up at Oswego, and then you have to go to, I think it's Aura.
Oh, for the, yeah, do they have one there? Huh? Our stream gauge is basically that Deeds Ditch that runs from Pike Lake, Monteith, or not Monteith.
Into the, yeah.
Spitfire, that area.
That'd be a helpful one to watch for
Right. And
those
it's gonna-
trying
it's
to
helpful
anticipate
as we
flooding.
start to look at drainage and how we start to reduce some of the water that's backing up in that area.
Sure.
It has been 4 or 5 years ago, the federal agency was going to decommission that gauge. They had funding shortages. And they contacted the city to say, did we see merit in having it? And we do. Someday we'll be able to do more with drainage off of that pipe lake and the shed upstream. And when that day comes, this gauge data will be very valuable. So it is well worth the money to keep this gauge operational.
Sure.
So we get that data. Now, everybody benefits from that data. From the federal side, they're running the gauge as though they were still funding it. We're just offsetting some of the costs to keep it operational.
So those gauges I was referring to, I think, are DNR gauges, is that
DNR
correct?
on the Tippy River. This
On the
one's
river.
on deeds, so different waterway.
Can this be, information, can this be accessed digitally, or?
Yes, it can, through the Department of Interior. This gauge data is open to the public.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I appreciate that. Wastewater, we've got SRF grant number 24.
This is for the NV Grant Services. This is the company that's doing all our payroll certifications as part of our SRF loan requirements. So she's doing all the paperwork, collecting all the data, making sure the contractors have provided everything we need, so if we get audited, we have the information.
And this is for the sewage expansion project, or the?
Yes.
This one, yes, she's
Okay.
actually doing it for the
Repairs.
yeah, the lining project. She's
Right.
doing all of our SRF payroll certifications.
All right, questions?
No, I'll move to approve.
I'll second that. And again, this is a requirement, an SRF requirement for
Yes.
their loan, that they do that. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the next item would be a construction pay application to Kokosing.
This is pay at 5 to Kokosing. That's 25 from the SRF disbursement. It's for work that's been completed at the plant. It's moving along on schedule. They've poured about half the concrete there is to pour, so there's about 5,500 total yards of concrete to pour, and they've poured 2,200 yards so far, so a lot of structures have been poured already.
All right, questions?
No, I'll, despite the amount, I'll move to approve.
And I will second that. And again, just to reiterate, those have all been inspected, that,
Yes,
and Wessler's doing that, the inspection,
Wessler's doing that.
to make sure those services have been provided.
Correct.
Okay,
You say about half the concrete?
About half the concrete for the whole project has been
Oh,
poured.
yeah, well, it's exciting.
so with this payment, looks like we'll be about a third of the way through. The payments are still 21
Yes.
million remaining, including the retainage. So,
They've been a great contractor to work with and staying
All right.
on schedule.
all right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Brian, do you want to give a little update on the construction progress as far as timing and weather, and it seemed like things are going pretty well?
Things are going well. They were able to work through a lot of their early wet weather we had. I think they're maybe a week that they're having the bank that they potentially could ask for, that they're thinking they may need to ask for extra days at some point. They've got both digesters poured, and they're working on pouring the control building for those. Today, they're pouring the wall. They've already got the slab and foundation in. Back where the primary tanks are going, they're starting to pour the first primary tank. That control building's been poured. The grit tank, that has been poured. So they're getting ready to start putting some piping in the ground.
Still looking at June, July next year being done?
I think that might be the substantial area, but the final's actually like September, October, but,
Okay.
and, yeah. They're still on schedule.
Good. All right, well then, gosh, here's another
Yeah.
pay application number 26.
And this is for the engineering services during construction, the oversight, and and the questions that come up.
Okay.
Brian, why does it, on this one, why does it say where it asks, is any part of this claim funded by an alternate funding source? It's checked yes and no. Do you know? Is that
Checked,
typo?
yes.
Normally it says
Oh.
no.
That's probably in error. There should only be one. Yeah, that's probably an error in.
Shouldn't say yes.
I assume it should say yes. Normally they don't, but I noticed that said yes too.
You read that.
Yes, I
Very good. All right, so I would note that correction.
I'll just circle the no and put X out the yes. They know.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I'll move to approve with that correction.
All right, I will second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks for all your work. I know you guys are putting up with a lot of construction out there and still keeping the flow going, so. All right. Lynn, is this your voice software?
Yes, it's for our software in the clerk treasurer's office for our asset software and our payroll software and our fund software,
Key fund?
our budget software, yes.
All right.
It's about $500 more than it was last year, so there's increased it a little bit.
All right, any questions?
No, I'll move to approve the software licensing annual agreement.
I would second that. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There don't appear to be any special claims,
There
so
are no special claims, you're correct.
we'll move to the claims docket. George, what did you find on there?
I've already got my question answered, so.
Okay.
Any questions?
No? So that's a motion to approve the docket.
So moved.
All right, I will second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Any other items carried forward? Visitors' comments or questions? I will make quick mention of a discussion I had with NDOT this morning. State Road 15 project has been a little bit of a nuisance, if you will, but nonetheless important to get that done. That's their funding, and talked with them about just maintaining safety because it's a very busy road. They were certainly understanding of that. We also talked about next weekend with the National Ski Show coming to town. There's going to be a lot of traffic, a lot of boats and trailers, a lot of RVs, and I've asked them to stop work for a day on Friday and clear the road so that State Road 15 has a little bit more safe approach, knowing that there's certainly going to be a lot of folks coming to town. I have made that request and have been preliminarily told that they will honor that request. So that was just a good discussion this morning that I had with their project engineer, and he was very helpful and understood the concern. So hopefully next Friday morning, between Friday morning and Sunday night, there shouldn't be any cones or construction on State Road 15, which is a good thing. I did have a chance to talk to him also about near future projects, if you will, the Anchorage Road and Parker Street widening at US 30. Jeremy, I believe you guys have a pre-construction meeting next week, so those timetables and details will be coming forward, but those projects will be starting this fall, late summer, early fall. They are also doing similar road repair on US 30 that they're doing on State Road 15. And again, I don't know the scope of that other than I assume, unfortunately, that US 30 will be down to a single lane in some spots. So I would ask for patience. I would certainly make sure that folks understand that with school starting back up, with still being in August and vacations and the traffic to and from work, State Road 15 hopefully will be done, but then US 30 is going to be impacted, as well as Anchorage and Parker. So these are all NDOT initiated, paid for, contracted, and administered projects that we are privy to, obviously, and we do have some input as referenced by the request to help us out next Friday, which is good. And I think we've got a good relationship with NDOT, but this project, this State Road 15 project was, maybe we had a month notice, 6 weeks. Again, I'm giving everybody notice on US 30, and I know we've talked about Anchorage and Parker, we just haven't been sure when that'll all happen. But again, would ask for your patience as those projects occur. They're obviously important projects, very necessary projects, but again, with school starting, we're gonna have to be really careful. So, Jeremy, any comments on those? I know you've been privy to some of those NDOT discussions.
Obviously with US 30, there's going to be a lot of construction, going to be delays and so forth. We are having a pre-construction meeting with them. The battery died. We are having a pre-construction meeting with them that we will try to work with them on which Anchorage or Parker, or what the timing is, within the confines of what they have to have accomplished for their contract. Obviously, we have sanitary sewer project that's going on in the airport industrial park. So we're going to try to work with them on the timing of how we do Anchorage and Parker, because we know we have roads out there that are being impacted and being closed. So we'll work with them and try to coordinate that as much as we can to make sure people can get in and out. But the reality is, it's construction, there's going to be delays. So if there are alternative, better routes, certainly people need to be looking at how they can go from point A to point B and maybe avoid some of those intersections once that construction starts. All of that planned to be done yet this year, so it'll be late into this construction season. I'm not sure, so we're probably talking about 90 days from start to finish. So if we're not starting until sometime in August, it's going to be at the end of the construction year, but they're still under construction. So from August to November, they're going to be under construction. Our other two projects, North Point Drive, is supposed to start second week in August. I believe they're going to start work out there. They've probably already done some marking. We're coordinating with the school to try to work with them on pickup and drop-off times for the children within that area. North Point Drive will be impacted. At the same time, they're looking at starting 300 North around September, early September. That road will be closed while that's under construction, and the roundabout being constructed as well. The intersection, we'll try to maintain flow between 300 North and Sheldon Street, but most of 300 North down to the bridge will be closed while it's under construction. We'll work with local access to those individuals that live along 300 North in that section. They will have access to and from their property at all times, but the through traffic will be closed.
So the good news is that the asphalt plant closes at a definitive time, so that there probably is an end in sight for all these projects. The bad news is they're trying to get it all done at once. So, we're just trying to let folks know what's going on. These projects are, again, necessary. Some are city projects, some aren't, some are NDOT, and then you get your water projects and difficulties with some of our storm and sanitary lines as we have failures, and we have to react to that. It's always a exciting season sometimes to try and navigate the roads, but most necessary with these repairs. And again, just ask for everybody's patience.
Slow down, especially through construction sites. Pay attention to the signs, flaggers, restrictions. That's always a big thing this time of year, safety-wise. If you can avoid them. If you can't, drive through there cautiously and slow down and pay attention. There's a lot of workers walking around. Just provide as much safety as we can. That's why when we do projects, a lot of the projects we do, if we can, we'll close down those roads to protect those workers that are on site, making our streets
So along with that, we are having a public hearing, or not a public hearing, excuse me, just a public meeting with regards to the US 30 project in September. We've got a tentative date. We're still trying to finalize the facility, so I won't make that announcement, but it'll probably be on a Wednesday night in September, and pending final approvals, we'll get that information out as soon as possible. At that meeting, we will show options for US 30. There's 4 options. The first option is do nothing. The second option is use the existing roadway and create a freeway, a limited access freeway on the existing roadway. The third option is to go north around the city. The fourth option is to go south around the city. So those options will preliminary look at proposals. And again, these are just not very detailed, but just the importance of these meetings is to let the public see what the options are, and let the public also understand how these options may impact traffic and existing right-of-ways and businesses and residential areas. There's certainly will be some impact. Agricultural land, it's obviously a huge project, and this is kind of the first step to take. It's all with basically listening session. We'll be taking public input, and again, trying to come up with some preferred details. But at this point, it's right now there's 4 options on the table, and no preference given to any of them, other than I would say it probably doesn't make sense to not do anything. So I think I'm down to at least 3 options. We're going to present some updated safety information, some traffic data, crash statistics. Just spoke with MACOG the morning. They're going to send us that information, so we'll talk about that night. But most important, we're just going to lay some maps out and give people the opportunity to see how they could be impacted. Not making any decisions. Again, just a meeting to sit down and see what our options are. So.
Do you have a location yet?
Not yet, but it'll be large enough that, all right, what we'd like to do is lay these maps out on tables, maybe several, like 4 tables. Put the county routes, the north and south route on one table, and then the city routes actually on 2 tables. So there's 2 tables with the same information. Folks can move back and forth and really take a look at them. We actually met with our stakeholders and had a preliminary look at this, and that's how that worked very well. It just, again, it was just more listening and getting important input from citizens and the public on US 30, a road that's going to change. We've got to develop a vision for what we want US 30 to be, and I think this will go a long way to getting us started here locally. So, all right. Anything else? Thank you all for coming, and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you.
Why is it work this morning? I noticed it was 15.